It started like any other lazy summer afternoon, the kind that makes you forget time, worry, and even who you are for a moment. I'd just gotten back to the old lake house for a few weeks off. No work, no traffic, no responsibilities. Just me, the water, and peace. I remember the sky was perfectly clear, like someone had ironed the clouds out of it. I kicked off my shoes, peeled off my shirt, and walked straight down the dock. That lake had been my family's slice of heaven for 3 generations. My dad used to tell me stories while we fished out here. Now I just wanted to float, breathe, and maybe feel human again after the chaos of city life. I dove in head first. The shock of the cold hit like a slap. Sharp, perfect. I came up laughing, slicking the water out of my eyes, and that's when I heard it. "Excuse me? Excuse me?" I turned. On the hill, right where the shared access trail met the edge of our property, stood a woman with a clipboard, sunglasses the size of teacups, and the tightest frown I'd ever seen. "You can't swim there," she barked. I laughed again, thinking she was joking. "I'm sorry, what?" "You are in violation of HOA Policy 6.2C. No unauthorized lake access without prior approval and wristband identification." I blinked. "Lady, this is my property." "Don't lie to me," she snapped, already pulling out her phone. "This area is under HOA jurisdiction. You're trespassing, and I have every right to issue a citation and involve law enforcement." She wasn't kidding. She was filming me now. "I live here," I said, swimming back toward the dock. "You can stop recording." "No, sir, I can't. This footage is going to the HOA board and the Ridgewater Neighborhood Security Committee. You people think you can just do whatever you want." "You people." I climbed out slowly, dripping and irritated. "Look, I don't know who you are, but I've lived here longer than any committee has existed. My parents bought this place in '92. I don't owe you an explanation." Her face turned a shade redder. "I am Mrs. Cynthia Palmer, HOA Enforcement Coordinator for Ridgewater. I take this role very seriously, young man." "Great. I take swimming seriously too. So unless you're going to jump in and stop me, I'd appreciate some space." She gasped. "How dare you speak to an officer of the Homeowners Association like that?" "Because this isn't a military checkpoint. It's my backyard," I muttered, and turned back toward the house. I thought it was over. It wasn't. She followed me halfway up the lawn, spouting regulations like a malfunctioning robot. I ignored her, towel-dried my hair, and shut the back door behind me. I watched her through the blinds as she stood there, talking to herself, then typing something furiously into her phone. I poured a beer and shrugged it off. She'd get bored. These HOA types always do. Power trips are short rides. I figured maybe she had a rough day and needed to yell at someone to feel better. I was wrong. I had no idea how far she'd go. Next morning, I walked down with my coffee just to check on the dock. Maybe toss a line, feel the sun. That's when I saw it. A bright orange sign nailed to one of my fence posts. HOA restricted area. Trespassers subject to fines and legal action. And below that, a handwritten note in red marker. Last warning, you are not authorized. I ripped it down, heart beating faster than it should. She was escalating. Over swimming? I grabbed my phone, opened my weather app, and took a long sip of coffee. If she wanted a fight, she was barking up the wrong dock. At around noon, I decided I wasn't going to hide in my house like a kid afraid of the principal. I changed into trunks, grabbed a towel, and walked right past the exact spot where her sign had been. I stood at the edge of the dock and stared at the calm, glassy water. That's when I heard the clicking. She was back. Not alone this time. She had a whistle around her neck, a laminated badge on a lanyard that read HOA Field Officer, and a brand new neon vest, the kind road workers wear. "You've officially been warned," she said. "You are now in violation of multiple HOA codes, and as an acting field officer, I am placing you under citizen's arrest." I blinked. "What?" She pulled out a zip tie. "I suggest you cooperate." I couldn't help it. I laughed. "You're kidding. This is a joke." She was dead serious. "Turn around, hands behind your back." "You're not serious. Do not resist. I will be forced to escalate if you fail to comply. You're trespassing. This is my house, my dock, my lake." You are trespassing on shared property managed under HOA oversight. This area falls under communal jurisdiction. No, it doesn't. It's on my deed. She stepped forward, holding the zip tie like she'd watched one too many procedural dramas. And right then, as I stood dripping in disbelief, I made a decision. I reached into my phone and sent one message to one person. Get here. Now. She's trying to arrest me. You see, my brother's not just good at poker, fixing engines, or grilling ribs. He's also a cop, and she had no idea what was coming. If you've ever had to deal with people like this, those who think a badge they printed at home gives them control over your life, you're going to want to stick around for what happens next. This story only gets crazier from here, so if you're watching this and can't believe it either, hit that like button, drop a comment, and make sure you're subscribed. You're not going to want to miss what happens when the real cop shows up. My brother didn't even ask for details. All I'd texted was, "Come now, psycho HOA woman trying to arrest me at the dock." His reply came in less than 10 seconds. On my way. That's the thing about Danny. He's always calm, the type of guy who could disarm a drunk with a smile and a firm handshake. But when something smells off, he's sharper than a scalpel. Meanwhile, Cynthia was still standing there like she ran Homeland Security, waving that stupid zip tie and barking legalese she clearly didn't understand. "You are resisting arrest," she declared. "I'm giving you one final opportunity to comply voluntarily. Otherwise, I will be forced to escalate." "Lady, I'm on my dock. You're on my lawn, and you're making a complete fool of yourself." "Then so be it." She tapped her Bluetooth earpiece. I swear I saw her practicing this in her mirror, and said, "Dispatch, I need immediate backup. Subject is non-compliant, possibly armed." I raised my hands in the most sarcastic way I could. "Armed? What? With my towel?" Cynthia turned, began pacing with purpose like she was waiting for her imaginary team to rappel out of a van. The HOA takes security seriously. We've had multiple reports of suspicious activity, and I have probable cause to detain. "Suspicious activity?" I asked. "You mean swimming?" She stopped and glared. "I've dealt with people like you before. Entitled, arrogant, think the rules don't apply." "And you think printing a badge gives you a badge," I cut in. "You don't work for anyone. The HOA doesn't even have enforcement officers." "That's where you're wrong," she snapped. "I've been volunteering with the Ridgewater Civic Authority for over 6 months. I helped author the revised summer guidelines." I was about to respond when a familiar hum rolled into the driveway. Black SUV, dark windows, county plates. "Danny." He stepped out slowly, sunglasses on, uniform crisp, badge gleaming in the sun. Took one look at me in swim trunks and Cynthia still in her neon vest. "Mike?" he called. "What's going on?" Cynthia turned to him, suddenly flushed with opportunity. "Officer, thank God, this man has been trespassing on HOA-controlled property and is resisting a lawful detainment. I'm executing a citizen's arrest under Neighborhood Code 6.2C. Danny raised an eyebrow. "HOA code?" "Yes, I am Cynthia Palmer, certified field officer of Ridgewater HOA. I've issued him multiple warnings, he's disregarded public signage, and he's now escalating the situation." Danny glanced at me. I just shrugged, arms still out like a wet scarecrow. "You placed a citizen's arrest on my brother?" he asked calmly. Cynthia blinked. "You're—" "Yeah, that's my brother," he said, stepping forward. "And unless you have a badge that isn't laminated at Staples, we're going to need to talk." "I suggest you remain neutral," she snapped. "This is a legal HOA matter." Danny pulled out his notebook. Slow, deliberate. "Let's clear a few things up. Do you have legal authority to detain residents?" Yes, I've been trained. I completed an online HOA compliance course last month. I have documentation." He smiled slightly. "Okay. Do you have a permit from Ridgewater HOA that grants you enforcement powers?" "I have this." She flashed the badge again. Danny didn't even look at it. "That's not a permit. That's arts and crafts." She stiffened. "You're not taking this seriously." "Oh, I'm dead serious. You attempted to detain a private citizen on his own property. That's false imprisonment. You claim to have probable cause without being law enforcement. That's impersonation. You made a false report, claiming he was armed. which, by the way, is a criminal offense. Cynthia's face was losing color. I didn't mean armed, she mumbled. He was aggressive. Verbally. Danny stepped closer. Do you have any affiliation with law enforcement, the county, or Ridgewater Security Services? Silence. Ma'am, I'm asking again. Do you have any authority to detain or confront residents? I was told I could enforce the bylaws. By who? By the HOA board president. What's their name? She hesitated. I don't remember offhand. I almost laughed again. Danny didn't even flinch. He turned to me. Mike, would you like to press charges? Cynthia gasped. Wait, what? No, this is a misunderstanding. Danny held up a hand. Then I suggest you stop talking. I'm placing you under investigation for impersonating a law enforcement officer and attempting to detain someone illegally. You are not under arrest yet, but I strongly recommend you leave this property right now and don't return until you've consulted legal counsel. But he swam in the lake. Which is his lake, Danny said firmly. And if you set foot on his property again, I will personally process a restraining order and file charges. Do you understand? She looked like she'd been hit with a leaf blower. She opened her mouth, closed it again, turned, and practically tripped over her own clipboard as she walked away. Fast, stiff, and defeated. When she was out of earshot, Danny exhaled. What the hell kind of weird neighborhood politics did I just walk into? Summer HOA drama, I said. You missed the good part. She tried to zip tie me. Danny laughed finally. Man, you really know how to spend your vacation. Beer's in the fridge. Make it 2, I'm staying. And just like that, the dock was quiet again. But deep down, I knew Cynthia wasn't done. People like that never leave it alone. Cynthia stayed gone for 2 days. Long enough to make me wonder if maybe, just maybe, that was it. She'd slink back to whatever nest she crawled out of. Maybe realize she'd overstepped. Maybe someone on the actual HOA board had finally told her to knock it off. But on the 3rd morning, just after I poured my 2nd cup of coffee and was halfway through baiting a line, I saw the Prius, same one she drove last time. But this time, it wasn't just her. A man in a cheap suit climbed out of the passenger side. Clipboard, sunglasses, looked like someone who did taxes for a living and hated every second of it. They walked right up to the fence like they owned the place. I stayed on the dock, arms crossed, watching. Michael, she called, like we were old friends. This is Mr. Darby. He's a compliance consultant and legal liaison with the Ridgewater Neighborhood Mediation Group. Mr. Darby gave a tight nod, flipping his clipboard open. We're here to offer a final resolution before escalating this matter to municipal code enforcement. I almost laughed. Escalating what, exactly? Your continued non-compliance and aggressive behavior, Cynthia answered, including, but not limited to, verbal assault, destruction of community signage, and obstruction of HOA protocol. You mean tearing down your crayon sign? It was legal notice. I shook my head. You're not welcome on this property. Mr. Darby cleared his throat, like that was the cue for his big speech. Our office has received multiple incident reports involving disruptive conduct and abuse of shared resources, according to Subclause 8B of the Community Charter. There is no community charter that governs this lot, I interrupted. Check the deed. This house is outside the HOA boundary. Always has been. Darby blinked, thrown off. Regardless, Cynthia pressed, we are here to conduct a compliance audit and verify that no further violations are taking place. You're not stepping 1 foot onto my property. Mr. Darby spoke again, this time slower, like I didn't understand English. Refusal to cooperate with a compliance audit could result in a formal citation filed through the Ridgewater Civil Accountability Network. Which doesn't exist, came a voice from behind them. Danny, he just pulled into the driveway, still in plain clothes, but that badge was hanging from his neck again. Cynthia's eyes widened like she'd seen a ghost. Are you seriously doing this again? He asked, walking up. I am exercising my rights as a community advocate, Cynthia said, voice rising. This property is in violation. No, it's not, Danny cut her off. We already checked. This home is grandfathered in. It's not under HOA jurisdiction. Any attempt to enforce regulations here is legally baseless. Mr. Darby shifted uncomfortably. I would advise you both to leave now, Danny continued, unless you want to talk to a real investigator about impersonation, harassment, and illegal attempts to conduct civil enforcement. You can't intimidate us, Cynthia snapped. I know my rights. Do you? Danny asked, stepping closer. Because right now, I've got footage of you trying to detain someone, presenting a fake badge, and returning to a property you were told not to approach. That's enough for a formal report. You want to keep pushing? Be my guest. Darby turned to Cynthia, whispering something. She waved him off, but I saw the shift. Her confidence was cracking. This isn't over, she hissed. I will have this reviewed by the Ridgewater Executive Committee. Great, I said. Tell them to bring snacks next time. They left, slower this time. Cynthia glanced back once, a look that wasn't anger anymore. It was embarrassment. Danny stood beside me, arms folded. You want to press again? Not yet, I said. Let's see what she does next. But the truth was, something in me had already shifted. This wasn't funny anymore. It wasn't annoying. It was violating. Some stranger pretending to be a cop, walking onto my land, threatening me in my own backyard. And I wasn't going to let it go unanswered. Not this time. The next step wasn't revenge, it was clarity. I spent the evening digging through old documents, the deed to the property, boundary maps, even a faded HOA welcome packet my dad had saved in a drawer for no reason. Everything confirmed what we already knew. Our house, dock, and a generous chunk of the lakefront were not under Ridgewater HOA control. Never had been, but Cynthia didn't care about facts. People like her thrive on perception, authority, fear. So the next morning, Danny and I took a drive to the Ridgewater HOA office. A little brick building between a hardware store and a dry cleaner. The receptionist barely looked up. Do you have an appointment? We're here about a compliance officer named Cynthia Palmer, Danny said, flashing his badge. That got her attention. 15 minutes later, we were sitting across from a man named Gerald Boyd, HOA president, late 50s, combed hair, nervous hands. He looked like someone who tried very hard to keep the peace and failed often. We have a problem, Danny said calmly. One of your residents has been impersonating a legal authority. She's attempting to enforce codes outside the HOA's jurisdiction. Gerald sighed. Cynthia Palmer? So this isn't the first time, I said. She's enthusiastic, he offered weakly. But technically she's not an officer. We don't have an enforcement division. We just send letters. She printed a badge, nailed signs onto private property, attempted a citizen's arrest, and brought someone claiming to be a compliance agent, Danny said. If you don't deal with her, we will. Gerald leaned back, rubbing his face. We've had complaints. Some board members wanted to censure her, but she's loud, persuasive, and frankly, some folks are scared of her. She's a bully, I said, and she's going to end up getting sued. By me, or someone else she decides to zip tie. Gerald nodded slowly. I'll draft a letter today, official, certified. We'll make it clear she has no authority, no standing, and if she continues this behavior, her membership rights will be suspended. Send me a copy, Danny said. We will. As we left, Danny clapped me on the shoulder. Now we wait. It didn't take long. That night I was sitting out on the dock, watching the moon skim the lake, when I saw motion near the edge of the property. I didn't move, just listened. Someone stepped through the brush, flashlight, clipboard, Cynthia, alone. She didn't see me. She was muttering to herself, pacing near the fence line, like she was building up courage. Then she pulled out her phone and started recording. This is formal documentation. Subject continues to exhibit non-compliance. Boundary markers have been removed. This will be submitted for review. I stood. Her light snapped toward me. She jumped. You're trespassing again, I said, walking toward her. Even after the letter. She took a step back. This is public. No, it's not. You know it. The board knows it. And I've got you on camera. Again. You're harassing me, she said, trembling now. You showed up to my property at night, alone, after being officially warned, I said. Do you want me to call the police again? Or should we skip straight to filing charges? Cynthia looked like she might cry. Then her jaw clenched. You think this is over? You think you've won? I think you're obsessed, I said honestly, with control, with authority you don't have. And I think maybe it's time you talk to someone about why you need strangers to follow rules that don't exist. She didn't answer, just turned and walked back into the trees. And that was the last time I saw her. But the fallout had only begun. 2 days later, I got a call from Gerald Boyd. We've had a special meeting, he said. Ms. Palmer has been removed from all volunteer committees. Her privileges have been suspended. We're issuing a statement to residents, apologizing for any confusion caused. And the guy she brought with her, never heard of him, not affiliated with any HOA legal services. We're investigating. I hung up, both relieved and unsatisfied, because justice is weird like that. Sometimes it's not about courtroom drama or people being dragged off in cuffs. Sometimes it's just someone not coming back, and that's enough. Almost. A week passed. The sun stayed out. The lake stayed quiet. And for once, nobody shouted regulations at me from the bushes. I'd like to say things went completely back to normal, but honestly, something had changed. Not just in the neighborhood, but in me. When someone invades your peace, your space, it leaves a mark, even when they're gone. But healing starts with quiet, and that's what I had again. Then one morning, an envelope showed up in the mailbox, certified mail, to Ridgewater HOA letterhead. I opened it slowly, unsure if I was ready for another headache, but it wasn't what I expected. Inside was a formal apology, signed by the board president and 2 other members, acknowledging Cynthia Palmer's behavior as inappropriate, unauthorized, and not reflective of the HOA's mission or legal rights. They confirmed my property was not, and never had been, under HOA jurisdiction, and they offered compensation, waiver of future neighborhood fees, should I ever voluntarily join. I laughed out loud. The best part? An enclosure from the HOA's legal team, a statement verifying that Cynthia Palmer had never held, nor had been assigned, any enforcement position within their organization. I scanned it and sent it to Danny. His response was instant. Frame it. I didn't, but I did stick it on the fridge, next to a cartoon drawing my niece made, and a ticket stub from the last concert I'd gone to. Little things that reminded me life could be simple. Good. That evening, Danny came by with a 6-pack and that tired look he always got after a shift. He kicked off his boots, took one sip of beer, and said, So, you got your lake back? Didn't know it had been taken. He raised an eyebrow. That's the thing with people like her. They don't take it all at once, just little pieces. A rule here, a sign there, a fake badge. Next thing you know, you're asking permission to stand on your own dock. I nodded. You think she'll try anything else? No, he said, but someone else will. Someone always does. We sat in silence for a while, listening to the bugs, the breeze, the occasional slap of water on the pilings. Eventually, I stood, stretched, and stared out over the dark lake. You ever notice, I said, how peace doesn't feel real until after chaos? Danny took another sip. That's 'cause peace is fragile. You gotta fight for it. I looked over at him. You just make that up? Yeah, he smirked. Sounded smart though, right? We both laughed. The kind of laugh that only happens after you've been through something. After the adrenaline fades and the world finally exhales with you. The lake was mine again. But more than that, my voice was mine again. I wasn't gonna let anyone take that from me again. Not with a clipboard, a badge, or a zip tie. And if they tried, well, my brother was just a phone call away.